Motion to approve them.
One question, Dean. Oh, never mind.
No question?
No.
Okay, motion to approve.
I thought it was 2.
Okay, second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, how about board elections? What is just, who do we have run? And who won?
It was John and Larry were the only ones on the ballots.
Right.
And with the hand ones that Dean received and the ones from the clerk's office, they both are elected. John received 24 votes. Larry received 25.
Okay, landslide.
Yep. And there were no write-ins.
I tried.
Okay, why don't we just move down the agenda and we'll go to down the president's report. So I just like to start that with the report with comparisons for the last 4 years. So we've got just a quick snapshot of a trend, and then you'll see every metric trended in the right direction. Food and beverage was down. Other than that, everything else was up, and Dean even made a couple bucks this year. Still, unfortunately, has a rather large cumulative loss. I'm just going to move through this and highlight, what I put together. If there's any comments, just jump in.
Okay. I think you're tracking stuff. Eastern Hills, it's real apparent that, for 3 years, our rounds and our revenue are way down, as the West 9 was not really effective. So I think getting the West 9 back is huge.
Dean, anything to say about that?
Say that again. Sorry. Yeah, I think the Eastern, it's in somewhere one of my goals. We've got to raise revenue at Eastern Hills by 100,000.
And I think that the West 9 is a big part of it.
I would agree.
If rounds were up overall and the West 9 was way down, I think it's apparent that could be a big factor for us.
Well, it seems like the dilemma is what you have to do and how you pay for it to make it more playable. That's the conundrum.
When did the West 9 go down? Was it 2018? I mean, we're looking at Eastern Hills comparisons from 2017 to now. Yeah, it's down, but if you're looking at the last 2 years, it's actually up.
Yeah, but both those years were down compared to 17.
Okay. So 17 was the goal we want to be reached. We want to try to get back to at least 2017 gross revenue.
Yep.
Dean is saying he wants it to be up
100.
about 100, correct?
Yeah, if I look at historical numbers, like from 2012 to last year, Millen Park has increased revenue, I think, $270,000, while Eastern Hills has decreased $60,000. So a lot of that we can blame on it potentially being sold multiple times in the running group. Then you had the flooding, and then you had the irrigation problems. There's a lot of reasons we could blame it on, but the success we've had at Millen, there's no reason we can't focus our efforts and have that kind of success at Eastern Hills this next year.
Is part of that because you've got a couple new activities going on at Millen also that you didn't have a few years ago, like in 2012? Yeah.
So That increase at Millam does not count ski revenue. But it would account for alcohol revenue would be in there because we did not have alcohol in 2012.
Right. And we have the lesson building now that you bought from
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So you got a couple things that aren't just golf related. So maybe a good measurement would be to remove those variables and check golf versus golf and booze versus booze and food.
Right.
Hey, Rod Serling, can you get a handle on that?
Jeez.
Oh,
Sorry, I can't help myself. Okay, any more comments right now about Eastern? I'm sure we'll address it later also. Okay. Let's just move down through the report. I think, probably everybody was surprised about what happened in 2020 as far as the way things started and then the way things ended up. But I think it is right. We've got to come up with a way to try to increase revenue at Eastern, and what's it going to cost to do that, and how are you going to pay for it if it involves capital? So, a couple things like going into 2021, something I'm like really, like right now I'm talking to a lot of country clubs in Michigan, and then I'm out west here playing golf. And, something that the clubs are doing is they are really being aggressive this year. And they have resources we don't have, but, they're just doing things differently for the members, making it more fun, but they are attracting more members. And out here, they have raised the daily rates, probably a solid 15%. And they're not being shy about raising that daily rate. So I'm probably paying at least $10 for 18 more than a year ago. And I just think that's something to consider. Obviously, they're saying, you better, make revenue while you can. You don't know what'll happen. I would think 2021 would continue to be strong, and then maybe things are real normal in 2022. Maybe it would flatten out, possibly. And so I don't know if we want to revisit our daily rates or not. Dean, what do you think? Maybe.
Open to that. I know we raised the Millam rate by $1 on the greens fees and $1 on the cart. At Eastern, we only raised the cart rate by $1. So we did a small increase from last year, and that dollar hits I think the first 9 at Millam, so it'll hit all the league players. We have our specials that kind of override all of our posted rates, like all weekday mornings and weekend afternoons. We could always look at not having such a strong special, but our market has always been a challenge. You can play a lot of courses for $25 on a weekday morning, and we're charging $33 at Millam.
Is that still true now, do you think?
It was for the second half of the year. Will it be that way going forward? I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, it might be, worth their while to maybe investigate it again and see what everybody else is doing. And not, this might not be the year to play the price game and maximize that revenue if we can. And again, it's a different market out here, but they, it's like, I noticed that stuff. They're not, there's no discount on, Friday morning is a big morning out here. And, so if you play Tuesday or Wednesday, you're paying the Friday rate now. And so they're really not being shy about it at all.
I think the difference between here and going out west is you're kind of in a resort situation out there right now, especially this time of year. They're on vacation. They're going to pay whatever. They don't want to play golf. They don't care what the price is. How much was it? Oh, I don't know. I just signed the credit card.
I would say in years past, yes. Right now, this town's getting its ass kicked. So not so much of that going on.
But that being said, at Millam, I've noticed that when I'm out there and I'm walking and I'm carrying just because I want to do that, not because of the money, I'm seeing young people just doing carts. I mean, they don't care. I think the younger people don't care. They want to play golf and they want to ride a cart, and it doesn't matter what it costs. They're gonna pay that amount. So if you upped it $2, they wouldn't even blink.
And there seems to be no question that, even based on the numbers of the increase in demand. I mean, with more people working at home, working in scare quotes, and it's expected to continue the next year, there's just no question. Demand has been, the increase in demand is there, and it would seem people willing to pay because it is one of the only things that you can do. And if that means daily rates need to increase next year, it seems potential there.
I agree. And I think at minimum, maybe if the demand's going to be there, you don't have to offer the specials. So if you were uncomfortable with raising the rate, you could at least dump all the special, rates, because I agree. I think the demand will definitely be there through at least the first, several months of the golf season, from April through probably June or July, depending on when and if things go back to normal. But if we know the demand's going to be there, I agree. Either increase the rates and get rid of the specials, or both.
I think that's something worth looking into.
I got a question. Seems like everybody's assuming that the COVID effect won't diminish as other things get open again. I don't know that I agree with that. I think that, we've enjoyed an opportunity because there wasn't anything else to do. I think that as other things open up, and the trend is going to be to open things up, I think that could have an effect on us, and we better be ready to grab market share.
But I would also
go ahead, Steve.
I would argue, though, that in a lot of the reading I've been doing, the way offices are set up, the way people are going to work, that's a lasting change. Like the way that people are going to work, what their hours are, et cetera. I don't think that's necessarily, I think there's going to be lasting effect of that. So even if the COVID effect is over, by the fall or through the summer, the time that people may have again for golfing seems to be unalterable at this point.
Yeah, and that's why I think, if I had to just project off the top of my head, I would say like 2021 keeps going strong, because it's not going to open up wide until the fall. I think that's where that's going. And then maybe if it does open up wide and people get back into some different activities, that would be in 2022, and then maybe we flatten out.
Well, I agree with Sean. One easy way to do it without having to change your whole rate structure is just get rid of the specials. Just don't have any specials. And if things start to slow down, then you can pop up the specials again. That's on-off switch that you could probably implement.
I completely agree. If things change, you can always go back to the specials and try to get people back. But I think this is probably true across the country. There were people that probably wouldn't have golfed had there not been a pandemic, that did golf, that probably enjoyed it, and probably want to keep going back outside and doing some activity. So some of those people are going to keep coming back, I think.
Well, it seems now would be the time to really look into it, Dean.
Okay, I will look into that.
Okay, let's continue down through this report so we can make some progress. You know, I'd like to see us, you know, set a goal in 2021 for the junior golf outing to raise $20,000. That'd be a big increase. That means we're going to have probably more, see if we can hustle up a couple more big checks. Dean, what do you think about that in light that we've got the first tee around, and that's also going to be in a good way a competition for what we do for our own junior golf program?
It's going to be an interesting dynamic how the two are out fundraising together, because our Red Arrow KHHEA outing really started as a way to benefit Red Arrow Golf Course. We started adding the junior golf portion of it into it just because it was an easier sell, I think, to people that they're supporting junior golf. So we got to get the message clear that we need Red Arrow Golf to be able to support junior golf. So it's got to get that message clear. The first team marathon is going to be before our fundraiser outing, so that may make it a challenge. But
Yeah.
we may also create new connections because of that first tee marathon. So we may be able to get a high dollar sponsor.
Is it possible that there's a whole new, perhaps a wrong metaphor, vein of families to tap into, given that there's so many more junior golfers with the, you know, with the, and again, congratulations on the amazing results with the, you know, the Junior Golf Association and all that. It was fantastic to see. It's such a great program. But given there's so much more participation there, a lot of those are golf families. Is the potential there, you know, tap into that as a new source for the outing?
Hopefully, yeah. And hopefully with first tee, we're telling an even stronger story that we're reaching out to everyone as well, not just the current kids that are golfing. We're trying to reach another 200 to 500 kids and bring them into the golfing fold. And without Red Arrow being available for that, it's going to be very challenging to reach these kids.
So that's the angle to sell it.
Hey, Kurt, what was the target you mentioned for the
20,000.
20,000? Okay.
I think we did a little over 15 this year. You know, and that means, you know, really, that means sponsors.
Primarily, I wonder how much we can raise the entry fee. You know, if we have 140 players, we raise it $10, there's another $1,400 right there off the entry fee. It is a very low fee compared to any other outing we play in.
That's probably a good idea.
And I think the people that are playing in that outing, another $10 that's not going to, you know, keep them away for sure.
You could do it 25. I mean, everybody there would do 25 extra bucks.
Whoa, 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 there, big spender.
That's what everybody there is already they're spending that on beer.
And as we talk, you know, 140 a year ago, 144 this past year, that's maxed out for an event. Do we look at a morning and an afternoon and try to get 200 people or some sort of strategy along that way? So I think when we,
I like that idea.
next month, we talk about some of those ideas so we can start planning what we think is going to work.
I think we saw that we could take a lot of the overhead out of it this last year. But we have to strategize how to maximize those donations better. Because when we did the auction, that did not maximize revenue.
Right, not being able to gather under a tent didn't work out so well. So especially if we went to a morning and an afternoon, 2 groups, I think our auction has to go online in some fashion if we continue with an auction.
Well, it's an easy way to make free money. Well,
The ROI outing has gone to an online last year because they had to cancel the event. They went to they still had the auction, but they did it online, you know, with your phone, did it over like 3 days. It was pretty successful. I don't remember the amounts, but it worked out really well. So that's, and I think it was, I can't remember the name of the program, something like Black Owl or something, but it was pretty inexpensive program to hook up with.
Okay, well, those are ideas we'll bring up and go over when we have junior golf outing meetings very shortly. Okay, we know the first tee is coming in, so I think Dean would encourage everybody to get involved and either volunteer or be a lead coach. And then the next topic I kind of touched on is like, I think the GPA building that DMG now is running and the ski shop are two really good examples about, you've got a big, huge asset, and in the wintertime it sits empty, and we're not going to do what the private clubs do and build athletic clubs within their country club or anything, but it's like that's a good example. Those two items right there, it's like, okay, get creative. What else can you do with the facility during the off season and during the summer? What can you do? And just any ideas I think are worth kicking around out there.
I think we talked about one before. My brother-in-law's country club is doing it. I did it with them. They have, and again, I don't know how practical this is, but if the space is there, they have 2 simulators. They have like they have a bar scene that's going on with it. I don't know. He's like, says it's constantly full, hard to get reservations. It generates revenue through alcohol and through use of the simulators.
We just don't have physical capacity to do that, do we, Dean?
Right now, we do not, no. So in the regular board meeting, I think I ended my report with, I've got simulators installed down at Old Mill now. We're in the final testing and hoping to open soon. And I said, if only Millham had tall enough ceilings to put simulators in. Because if we had simulators here at Millham, I think they would do phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Be expensive to implement because you'd be talking construction.
Right. Ideally, it'd be here, part of the clubhouse, right off where the ski shop currently is, so that you had access to the bar easily and tried any food. And that would be major construction.
Next thing that was in the report is I just looked at what the numbers were on the food and beverage at Millham, especially, and how the labor hours went down and the labor expense went down considerably, but so also did the profit. And I think Dean and I have talked about it just for a couple seconds about, it is worth it to have that extra labor cost if it increases your bottom line by $7,000 or $8,000, and also probably could be done a little bit more strategically so that you actually raise the revenue even more than in the past. The first time when Mandy was doing it a couple of years ago, it was like we didn't really have a game plan. It was like, Mandy, go do it, and hopefully we'll make money. And what do you think about that, Dean, as far as you want to go back to what you were doing a couple of years ago and be more aggressive?
I think some sort of hybrid off of that, because last year we were hindered with what we were allowed to do and stuff. But I think bringing Mandy in and training more people and providing better service definitely increased sales. We were trying to increase food sales, and I don't think we succeeded in that at all. So that's a hard game to get into, to try and increase food sales without a kitchen. But I think if we keep the momentum we had started, where we're selling more drinks and keeping people around a little bit longer, and we were more aggressive on the bev cart, having that out there more often, and figure out how to manage that with the overall labor, I think we can find some middle ground where our sales stay up, but our labor costs don't skyrocket like they did 2 years ago.
Okay, then in last year's report, one of the things I emphasized is that we had an increase in debt service. So this was in 2019. And we projected our debt service to be about 162 in 2020. And what was it, 159, Dean, last year? Is that right? Pretty
I
close.
think it was 162, but then we built onto the ski shop, and
Right.
even though that wasn't budgeted, it kind of would count as debt service. So we ended up with, I think, 173 maybe, because it was 11,000 invested into the building.
But the ski shop was funded internally from cash flow?
Yes.
Okay, so not really debt service, just a capital expense that got funded internally.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So, we're going to have issues at Eastern that need to be addressed, and how, if we have to bond for that. I think you've always said that about 160 is a comfort level on the debt service. If we bond at Eastern, what would you anticipate that might increase it to? I think we just want to not get on a slippery slope of going back where we were. What do you think we'd have to increase the bond? Is it 40,000 for the irrigation that you think you'll need, or?
And that's in a regular meeting where we could talk about the bond.
Well, we can talk about that, but I think we want to keep an eye on that level.
Yeah. Because that would be just to redo the main line for the irrigation so that we can get that running. And that doesn't count any extra dirt moving we'd have to do, or what it would take to get the holes 4 and 5 playable as we know them. I think our plan right now is he wants to just play them as 2 par 3s and use hole number 4 and 5. But even to do that, he says he needs that main line running confidently where it's not leaking all the time, and can move some water out of there and manage the water level. So 40,000 just to do that. Question is, how much more do we think we want to spend to get those holes playable? I had that quote from Rick that was about 80,000 to finish moving the dirt, and we didn't spend that much money moving all the dirt prior. That seemed like a lot to chew off.
Seems way out of line.
Yeah.
What do you think about 2 par 3s back there, Mike?
I think that you can easily turn 5 back into a par 4 without, once you get some land down at the bottom, you're going straight up a hill. Where the tee box was this past year was too close. I mean, people are driving the green left and right. Somebody's going to get beamed. I think you got to be able to move it back some in order to make that a par 4. And, number 4, it didn't seem like that's too far from being able to turn it back into a par 4. What do you think on that, Dean?
The landing area is pretty narrow there. So, it's doable, but it's also still pretty wet. That's why the thought was to move some more dirt down there.
Yeah.
But if we do that, we have to have a way to get from 4 green over to 5T. And right now that's a little easier if number 4 is a par 3. You go play number 4, and then you kind of drive back around to get over to number 5. If you're doing that as a par 4 where they're teeing off from way up top, then you got safety issues if a golf ball's flying at you.
I think way up top would be a par 5. I'm saying part way down
4.
and make it a 4. Just farther back than where you're at now.
No, I'm talking about hole number 4.
Oh,
So if once you finish 4 green, you don't have a way to get to 5. You have to drive back down 4 and then cut over.
okay.
So you keep,
That's the issue, and why we think we would need to move more dirt, if we could find a spot to put a bridge, but that requires moving dirt as well. It's more a logistical of how do you get from there over to the next hole safely.
More likely to have 4 as a par 3 and 5 as a par 4.
Right, and 5, I'd like to put the new tee where the old pump house was.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about.
Yeah,
Move it
there's-
back from where it was this past year, but not all the way back up to up top. Where it
Right.
used-
Right, and that'll require some dirt moving, but not anything extravagant.
Right.
Put a tee in there, we can do that without too much trouble.
So you need some dirt on 4, or leave it as a par 3 and not have to do that much. Is that about it?
That's where we stand right now, yes. And a lot of this is all predicated on being able to move water out of there with the pumps and everything. Because everything else, from what I understand, worked really well. All the new irrigation heads we put in and pressure he was getting made a big difference there. And it starts to save him a lot of time on maintenance. He ran what I thought was a skeleton crew last year.
Yeah.
And I thought the course was in excellent condition.
Yeah. Yeah, it improved over the previous year considerably. Either way, you got to get the water working, right?
Either way, water is number
Yeah.
one.
So, I mean, I don't even think that's, whatever, whether it's $40,000 or not, I don't know, but you got to do something to get the water running and be dependable. So that part of it, I think we got to, pick a course of action and move, because you got to get that going. Otherwise, you risk the main course again.
And Mike, do you think that one of the, I know we had the bad conditions, but do you think that that's a big reason why revenues are down at Eastern, is you just don't have another real 9 holes to play?
Yeah, I mean, it was a ghost town. I mean, if it wasn't for some league play where we forced people to play on it, we wouldn't have had anybody.
So your argument would be, if we bond to fix it, it's like, yeah, we don't want to go in debt, but you're going to more than pay for it with increased revenue.
Yeah, I think we have to focus on what can we use that 9 for. And I think that, try to promote family stuff, other things. If it's going to be shorter, okay, you're not going to get, big hitters that want to go out there. But, there is a market for that. And I think we got to go after it.
Executive 9.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes more of an executive 9. You still have some good holes on there that are fun. I don't know if there's anything we can do with any of the other holes. I doubt it.
It seems like the general thing I'll hear about Eastern and West Nine is people like it because it's prettier, because there's hills and there's water and I
Yeah.
think it's a desirable 9 to play.
So Dean, are you confident that that will help increase revenue if you have to take on more debt, that it should cover it?
Yes.
Okay. So when we get to your request to bond, then take that into consideration. Okay. And we're going to have a capital budget committee last year that kind of got sidelined. Was that you and I, Sean?
I think so. I think I vaguely remember some conversations about that.
Seems like it. Do you want to work on that again with Dean?
Absolutely.
Or start working on it again with Dean? All right. So Dean, if you could sketch out what your capital needs are that you see in the next at least 5 years. And then just at least, I think it helps count the beans, that you're gonna be spending, figure out how you're gonna come up with the money to do it. But right now, I think you're the only one that really knows, what that could be outside of probably in the next 4 to 5 years, we're gonna need to spend some money on the irrigation at Millam.
Correct. Yeah, the two biggest ones are parking lot and irrigation at Millam. But equipment, we always need equipment. So we have to figure out if we're going to bond money to get some new mowers here and there, or if we're going to keep repairing what we have, or I've been trying to fund those out of operations. I think long-term, that's the way we want to be. We just have to get through short-term here confidently.
So if you fund, maybe you know better, John, if you fund buying a tractor from the cash flow, who owns the tractor? Dean or the city?
I would say Dean.
I would think, is there any question about that? As far as the way the contract is?
Probably right, but I'd want to dig into the contract to look at the
Yeah.
specifics of that.
Yeah. I mean, it would seem like it if that's what we're doing. But, we got to make sure we do it the right way. Not
Well,
just,
I think Steve's right. I think there is some, now that I think about it, I think there is something in the contract that would just answer that question. So we just have to go to the contract. Take a look.
okay.
But I don't know if he's there yet. I'm not sure that's what he's thinking he's going to do. Again, that would be something that the budget committee would have to have that information when they put together their numbers.
Well, like the tricky thing for Dean is like, so, what you did spend money on this year was increasing the size of the building up by the driving range at Millam, right?
Correct. So that one's a clear cut. That's owned by KMGA. That's why I threw it into the capital. Even though it's in the debt service line, it's capital that's owned by KMGA. So that's kind of the vehicle of how if you call what paying off the capital and the bonds and stuff, my lease for operating the courses, that's kind of the vehicle of where I show that expense. But when we get to equipment, if I buy a tractor, then there is a gray area there. I think we have to define when equipment is purchased, who owns it.
So probably need to review your contract before next meeting, just see what that seems to say.
And Dean, you and I can probably work offline on that a little bit before the next meeting.
Okay.
Just, I think, a good question to get answered. So, okay, that's it. Is there any other questions about my report? We'll go to Dean's. Okay, Dean.
Okay, so in my usual annual report, I just try to pick out some highlights and things and just build a list of what those are. So started out with, even though our core revenue was down 28% at the end of May, we ended up 7.5%. The second half of the year was just phenomenal for us. Used merchandise, we were down 41% at the end of May, but by the end of the year, we were up 14%. And that does not include the ski shop. The ski shop isn't part of our regular numbers. I'm kind of parsing those out separately. The food and bev was down 31% overall. But even with that, our overall revenue was up 3.5%. Again, not counting the ski shop revenue. So still a very positive year financially. And who would have thought that when I'm draining my retirement accounts to pay payroll in March?
Crazy.
So ski shop revenue was over $100,000 by the end of the year. So we didn't get that going until about the second week of November. So I've been very pleased with the activity that's in there and the reception. So we already have to plan ordering for next year right now. So it's kind of a little different animal than how the golf business works. So anything we order now, we kind of commit to for next year. So we were fortunate that since we didn't start ordering product until September, that we were able to get product. And Matt did a great job in the selection of what we had, and been able to fit a lot of people into what they wanted. And so far this month, we're another $75,000 in revenue. Now with some snow on the ground, it just keeps going. Our staff, I think, did an excellent job dealing with all the challenges of shutdowns, curfews, executive orders, and mandates while maintaining both employee and customer safety. I think golf turned out to be very fortunate in all of those. And it's definitely a challenge on us to try and figure out what we're supposed to do, what we're allowed to do, what do customers expect us to do. I think looking back, we did fairly well with all of that. Millen Park, the conditions of the course continue to be excellent. I think Eastern Hills rebounded very well from the year before.
We're going to have rakes in the bunkers this year.
You know, I didn't get too many complaints about not having rakes. And from a maintenance standpoint, it makes maintenance a lot easier. But that's a good question that we'll have to discuss here. I'll ask Ron what his plan is. But I was surprised at how few complaints we had about not having rakes, not having water coolers. I think we had trash cans out there at least.
Well, when you get to place your ball in a bunker, why would anybody complain about that?
Exactly. Millen Park, we hosted the spring medal on a fast turnaround when a lot of other courses couldn't. So I think that again shows that our staff is able to handle that and that the course conditions were ready for it. Remember, that's kind of a rainy weekend, but the guys played through it, and happy to get that event in. Both courses retained all the leagues that we had scheduled. A lot of the leagues played through September and into October to kind of make up for what they missed in April. And as far as we know, all leagues are returning for next year. And we've got a few phone calls on a couple new leagues. Rounds-wise, Millen Park were a combined 5,200 rounds down by the end of May. By the end of the year, we were up 1,500 rounds. So we saw that trend across the country. So again, another phenomenal second half of the year. And Red Arrow rounds were up 1,500 despite not opening till the end of May. Our PGA Junior League, we had 36 in the summer and 84 in the fall. And that made us the 16th largest program in the nation, which I was fascinated when I got that email. I said, wow, that's kind of cool. I was just a little disappointed that there was another person in Michigan that was bigger than us, but that's all right.
Can I just say the numbers don't even like fully do it justice. As a son who plays, like, it's just such a phenomenal program. I mean, as I wrote in, you know, they ask you to do a response and give feedback and survey and stuff. It's just, it does everything as a parent you'd want it to do. Like, you know, Gabriel made great friends, including, of course, Patrick, but, you know, made wonderful friends. It just was so good for like his confidence, but also just learning. You know, you have setbacks, you succeed. It's super fun. He's gotten better. It's just such a good program. And I don't know, we didn't miss registration for this year, did we?
Not yet. And I'm kind of freaking out about this year because with so many kids, you know, in the fall, we made it work because I just rotated amongst the 4 courses and kept it as a in-house league. We didn't play against other courses, but in the summer we play against KCC and Gull Lake and the Moors.
Yeah.
And if I have 36 plus 84, say I get half of those kids sign up in the summer, I don't have a place to put them. It makes practicing and logistics very challenging. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around how we're going to do that for summer. But registration is supposed to open up here in a few weeks, and I haven't signed up as a captain to commit what the plan is yet.
Well, that's another super fun thing about it, that the kids got to play so many different courses. It's just like, it's just great. The competition, the friendship, what it's doing. I mean, congratulations. It's just sensational.
Thank you.
As I wrote in my feedback survey, I was like, originally my son's bar mitzvah theme was going to be soccer, and he still, of course, loves soccer. But now the theme of the bar mitzvah is golf. So, you know,
Excellent.
that's how much it's changed.
Perfect. The Kalamazoo Junior Golf Association had another 200 in the instructional programs, as well as 150 in the tournament programs. And all those kids were given free access to play down at Red Arrow. Our Support KHHA Red Arrow outing had 144 participants and raised over $15,000. So that was one of our, we only did a couple outings this year, and that was the big one. And I think we pulled it off very successfully. We did the first team marathon at Eastern Hills, where I played 127 holes, but overall we raised well over $30,000. I think the final total might have been close to $35,000. And that's allowed First Tee to hire an area director, which should be coming here within the next month or so, and get programming started in early April. And then thanks again to all the volunteers at Red Arrow, and partnering with KHHA, Red Arrow operations remain revenue neutral. So that's keeping the golf course open. And I think if anyone played down there this year, the conditions keep getting a little better every year. And we're still $5 down there, and no plans to raise that. So I put in a few 2021 goals. Got to continue working on Eastern Hills to get it 100% open and running efficiently. Develop a capital plan for the courses, support First Tee at all 3 courses. I put in there the increased revenue at Eastern by $100,000. So I'm going to let staff know that that's the goal, and let's figure out how we're going to do that efficiently. Golf Performance Academy, now, as you know, that I own that. I only had Clark working there last year. Clark does all that he wants to do. So we couldn't really promote activities up there, but now I have Josh Burt, who is going to coach the K College golf teams, relieve me of that. I don't want to say hassle, maybe I say that duty. He's going to take over those, but he's also going to teach through Golf Performance Academy. So once we get him up and running, I think you'll see some more promotion of club fitting and lessons and things that we can do through there. We talked a little bit about the ski shop, but we want to expand that operations for that for next year. Now that the word got out, we got to let everyone know that we're here. We're even talking about for next year, kind of flipping the golf stuff over into the food and bev area and using the main shop for the ski shop so that we can make it a little bit easier on the ski people who come in and are looking for things. And then just continue to monitor the labor budget and the course maintenance budgets to operate as efficiently as we can. You know, we started out the year with saving a lot on the labor costs, but by the end of the year, we inflated those significantly. So I want to just keep looking at ways that we can operate safely, but more efficiently on the labor side. So that's my page of year in review report.
Hey, Dean,
Yes.
how much additional pressure are we gonna see for fundraising out of First Tee? I mean, I'm getting emails a lot and all this kind of stuff, and I see now you have a second fundraiser, you know, that's coming up in June. Is it gonna keep getting bigger and higher and wider?
That marathon was originally scheduled for June 5th last year, so that's when it normally is, but it was postponed until September. So it does feel like a short turnaround that we got hit with that, and then now we got the next one kind of right on it before we even have our next Red Arrow fundraiser outing.
So then it's
No, that'll be just a once a year thing.
Oh, okay, not twice a year. Okay.
No.
I motion to adjourn the annual meeting.
Can I just ask about one thing, and then we can. On the KMJ modified cash P&L, December 2020. Dean, can you, on that first page of the debt service, 2019 was 119. Plan in 2020 was 161, 591, ended up being 172, 659. Maybe address that.
Yeah, the plan was actually 162, 572. So that was the irrigation, the 530,000 we bonded for that. So
Yeah.
that's what picked that number up from 2019. But then why ending at 172, the 162 actually became 161, 591 once I got the final invoice from the city, and how they track the interest and stuff was different than what I had gotten at the start. So it went down 1,000, but then we spent 11,068 on the ski shop expansion. And like I say, that's the line item where I can put a KMGA capital quote unquote expense to DM Golf so that it's on the KMGA book. So it's technically not debt service as we've been looking at it, but it is related to it. And I think the last page of the packet has the annual debt service numbers. And they are updated so that next year our debt service is 160, 591. So if we were to buy, say I buy a tractor for $10,000 and we decide that that is a KMGA capital equipment owned by KMGA, I'd throw that $10,000 on top of the 160. If we said, no, that's a DM Golf number, then it hits in my books and we decide if it's expensed under course maintenance or it becomes an asset to DM Golf and doesn't even show on the books.
If it's a KMGA number and you bond it out, does that get spread out over 5 years, 10 years?
I think that depends on what deal Steve gets. So if you look at the 19 bond, ends in 2029. It was a shorter term bond than the 2018 bond, which doesn't end until 2033. I thought normally they were 15-year bonds, but for some reason the one most recent one we got for irrigation was only a 10-year bond.
Then the only other question I had is on the DM Golf modified cash P&L. Under your projected labor expense for 2020 is 708,965. And in 2021, you're shooting for 680. It's going to go down 29,000.
So 2021 doesn't take into account ski shop. 2020, if I backed out the ski shop is included in that labor. If I backed it out, it'd be a lower number. So adding the ski shop in kind of at the end of the year made me wrangle with how am I reporting these numbers. So to keep consistency, I don't have the ski shop in that on the income side, but I do have the expenses from it in there. I guess I shouldn't say that. I did put the ski shop in. It's in merchandise. So if you look at income merchandise, budgeted 280, but we showed 439,000. So ski shop income is in there. So I misspoke.
Okay, and it seems like your golf projections for 2021 are pretty conservative. And you're trying to make the numbers work.
I did not, so the 21, 22, 23, 24, I did not change at all based on this year's numbers. That's kind of what we had originally planned a year or so ago. So we probably need to sit down and rethink those numbers and make them a little more realistic, because not knowing what the ski shop was going to do, and even
I
golf,
mean,
you
am I
know, 'cause
reading
if
it
you look
right?
back,
That-
our goal was always to get to that 600,000 number in golf, and that's where the numbers work. This year we exceeded it.
Right, so that's what I mean. It's like you're being pretty conservative then. You're not saying, hey, we're gonna go way over what we did last year. We're, you're trying to set it up so you can make it work with less.
Correct. Yes, trying to be conservative on the income side and realistic on the expense side. But I have not updated the numbers from what they've been the last 2-3 years.
Okay, those were my questions. Is there a move to any old business or any new business for the annual meeting? If not, is there a motion to adjourn the annual meeting?
You have a standing motion that I'll second.
Okay, so let's go to the regular meeting.
You gonna let people vote on that motion, or you just,
No,
it's
we're
just
just,
over?
we're
All in
moving.
favor?
Somebody wanted to end it, so it's like I'm more than happy
You,
to.
you just knew that we were all gonna affirm the vote to adjourn.
I did it like
It's
that.
implied.
Yeah, got it.
It was a Vulcan mind thing.
So as you go to the regular meeting, I want to bring this up now because I was going to not be the secretary going forward. And I have asked Patrick if he would. And so I don't know if you want, so if he's going to be, then he needs to start taking notes for this meeting. And I will stop taking notes. I don't know if you want to jump to officers or if you, what you want to do.
That sounds like a good plan. Okay. Okay, so why don't we, let's talk about, do we want to have any change in officers? John obviously is,
Well, I have a motion to accept the current slate of officers, except that we throw Bradshaw off as secretary and we add the very talented Patrick McVeary as the future secretary of KNGA.
I think the sooner the better.
The sooner the better.
Wow. Yikes.
So is there a motion to accept?
Steve, you're on mute.
I would just amend that we throw Bradshaw off gently. I would just amend slightly there. Otherwise, I'm all for it.
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, I did get elected to be still on the board, and I hope to be as active as just the job of secretary has just gotten to be so tight in terms of schedule for Dean, getting him minutes and things like that. I feel like it's a burden to both of us. So, and Patrick said he'd be willing to do it. He's done a fantastic job on the sub days for sure.
A motion to accept that proposed slate of officers.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, there we go. You have minutes from September 17. Any corrections, additions? Motion to approve?
I move to approve. First time I've been able to do that.
Yeah. Sean
Second.
seconds that. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I,
Another director of golf report.
So there might be some duplication in here, but it said ski shop's doing well, Golf Performance Academy. More break-ins. So if you're not aware, Eastern Hills
Wow.
Maintenance was broken into on January 12th, and many tools were stolen, as well as the plow truck. Truck has since been recovered, and we're working with insurance on stolen tools. Red Arrow was broken into just this past weekend, 2 nights in a row. Many tools were stolen. We're still compiling what's missing. Police found many of the items in the homeless camp across the river. And thankfully, we have Bill Roberts, who checks on Red Arrow almost daily. And he noticed the first break-in, and police contacted him when they were aware of the second break-in. And he's found a lot of stuff out on the course and along the river. And even the Coke machine that's in there was dragged across the golf course and recovered.
Have we heard any? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just going to ask what the status is from public safety as far as investigating that and apprehending anybody. Is there been anything from them?
So from Red Arrow, I got a call back. The officer who called me yesterday asking if I wanted to prosecute, but he says he has no suspects. They just know that it's from the homeless camp. If we backtrack to the Millam Park break-ins that we had over the summer, they do know who the suspects are. And it's funny, didn't realize I was missing an iPad from my office. And when I went to go find it, I couldn't find it. But yet it would identify it, and it had a person's name. It said so-and-so's iPad under my account. So I told the detective that, and his eyes kind of lit up because there's no way I would know this person's name. And he said, we know who it is. It's two brothers. They live by the golf course. We've had many issues with them. I've submitted my case to the prosecutor. The prosecutor won't prosecute. And that's all we're left with.
So, well, and this is probably a John question. Well, I don't know if John can answer it or not, but can you go after them in small claims? Something. I mean, how do people just get to walk away from this crap?
If you can prove they took it, you can sue them civilly. Yeah, that's and go.
Yeah, but if they don't have any assets, you aren't going to collect anything.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
I mean, the only way you can do it is put pressure on the city commission. And do we want to do that?
well, can we, as a board, send something to the prosecutor? It won't do any good because, you know, he's probably got bigger fish to fry. It sounds like he's not frying any at this point. Just my opinion.
And second,
Put that in the minutes, please.
It's frustrating. I mean, how do we expect this to stop if nobody gets prosecuted and we know who it is? It's, you know, it's just this stuff will continue.
all the time.
Maybe we have a responsibility to make it known that the prosecuting attorney knows who someone is that's committed repeated breaking and enterings and won't do anything about it. Do we have a responsibility to inform the public that that's going on in the city of Kalamazoo? I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes. It might be good to write a letter and request some sort of response. I mean, I know the reason is, you know, people aren't getting prosecuted is, you know, full jails and COVID and whatever, but you know, I don't know.
I don't know if we want golf in the spotlight like that.
Yeah, I don't know if it helps our cause by, you know, calling him out like that, calling the prosecutor's office out like that, but
I know the police officers at Red Arrow said they wanted us to call 311 about the break-ins there, and Bill Roberts did so and made it sound like, and I didn't do it myself, but he made it sound like 311 didn't know how to take information or didn't have an answer. He made it sound like they didn't really sound very helpful.
I don't know why they would call 311. That's a police issue.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense, but
Hey, Dean, are
Yeah.
our alarm systems in that adequate?
We don't have any down at Red Arrow. Haven't had them for 10 years. I am considering putting in a video system down there like I have here at Millam. But that's the frustrating part is I have the break-ins at Millam on video, and you can tell it's the same person all 3 times, and yet nothing comes
happens.
of it.
I mean, they can't get back your property.
I haven't gotten any follow-up about the iPad because I think the detective wanted a subpoena to search the property, and he has not gotten back to me on that.
At a minimum, I think the prosecutor should give them the ability to get in there and get what property there is that's known back to you. I mean, that should be an absolute minimum, I would think. I don't know the law, but that seems, that's bad if, not prosecuting allows that person to keep your property.
Agreed.
Well, maybe you'll get some answers when you get that person a call back.
Hopefully.
Is there a point where the board makes it public to the city commission that we're not getting? I mean, how many break-ins do we want before, and especially the one at Millam where you know who it is, they've done it 3 times and they're just laughing about it. And the prosecutor chooses not to address it.
I would defer to Steve, but what I would say is,
You guys know best.
yeah, the city commission is so focused on other things right now that I don't know that they would even, I don't know that it would phase them. What do you think, Steve?
I mean, I even think about this. I don't know that it's necessarily a city commission issue. I think it's something that's at the county level because the prosecutor works for the county. So I mean, we as a board could write a letter to the county or do something of that, put pressure on that way, perhaps.
I don't think it hurts to write a letter. I don't know that it's going to do much good, but I don't think it hurts to send them a letter from the board. We probably need to make sure, Clyde's okay with it because this is a city board, but at a minimum, I think we need to do that.
Talk to my county commissioner and just see if he thinks it's worth bringing it up to the county commission.
Yep.
Does it make a difference that it's ostensibly city property, or that doesn't matter in terms, that it was a theft that took place on city property? Or
It apparently doesn't seem to matter at all, but I think that's a question for the county.
Well, and I've been lax on filing an insurance claim for the damage at Millam, so hopefully I can still do that. And Steve, maybe I need to talk to you about what it takes to do that, because the building damage falls on the city's insurance. And maybe if I can get some claims filed, that gives some.
Yeah, we can work with that after. The sooner we can make those claims, the better. The longer they sit out there, the less nice the insurance is. Put it that way.
Yep. And that's why these Red Arrow and Eastern Hills claims, where it's tools and equipment, that's directly on my insurance. That's easy claim for me to make, but I tried to make it on the buildings with my insurance, and they said, nope, that's not us. That's the city.
Yep. So if you have pictures in that, that runs through my department. We can get your forms and get that submitted for you.
Okay.
Okay, Dean, keep going.
So we talked about the ski building, the range building, the expansion. So the final cost on that was $11,068. So like I say, we've paid for that out of ski shop revenue, but since it's a permanent fixture of the KMGA, I included that amount in the debt service total as it's an expense to me. But we just need to approve that capital expense. So that is the only capital expense that I think the KMGA has in 2020. Where normally I have a list of things that we purchased, and traditionally this January meeting, we go back and approve all of those. But that's the only one. So I'm asking for a motion to approve the ski shop expansion as a capital expense.
Okay, so you don't need any money. It's already been spent. So this is just a motion to formalize it.
Yes. Agreed, Steve.
I thought maybe I missed it. I thought we'd done that at a previous meeting to approve moving forward with that idea. So if we're just formalizing perhaps the expense that's been spent at this point, we could do that.
You're correct. We did approve doing it, but I think and maybe the auditors have changed, but usually when it comes to capital, that's going to be on the KMG books. The auditors want some sort of approval from the board. And I know either
It
January
never
or
hurts.
February, we usually approve everything that was done the prior year.
So yeah, I mean, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
I,
Approved.
Okay, and then we have a quote from Teal Turf. They're the ones that installed all the irrigation at Eastern Hills to replace the main line and pump intakes at Eastern Hills. And that quote is for $40,000. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve that. And a lot of what we discussed earlier, Brian feels we need to have that irrigation going, being able to move water out of there efficiently before we can finish any work on holes 4 and 5. We had that quote of 80,000 for moving dirt, but I don't think that's our best option right now. I say 40,000 is a bit much for DM Golf to swallow as just a one-time expense. So I'd potentially look for bond money through the city. Then it's a matter of when is the bond, how much can we bond? If we're going to bond, does it make sense to put in some equipment or some money for dirt moving? I know, Steve, we talked about this briefly late last year, but I kind of forgot the timeline of.
Yeah, well, that's where the city has kind of shifted its timeline for bonding, so we can work out a separate arrangement to get that money to you for your timeliness. Just because the city has been pushing theirs later and later, just based on the completion of our capital plan as we move forward. So we can move to kind of figure something out for the interim for that. Just so everybody's aware, I'm just kind of ballparking here. For 40,000 over 15 years, we're probably looking at 3,500 with interest to add it to the capital, to the debt service.
And so there's probably two issues. It's like, you got to have the irrigation. And I think Mike would concur that it's going to help generate revenue out at Eastern. And theoretically, that's how it could get paid for, hopefully. Does that sound right? Dean, Mike?
yep.
Yes.
Okay.
So what you're saying, Steve, it looks like we will be able to bond this amount then?
I mean, I guess that's the question I'm posing to the board. I know we had a good discussion about trying to stay at 160. So this would add about roughly $3,000 per year to our current debt service plan. If it's just this item, or if there's more to come, then we'd have to determine that as well. But that's kind of where that puts us, just so we're aware as we think we'll vote, as we want to vote on this.
And my position would be is let's not get into debt creep. So to be very, very prudent in increasing any debt. But this would kick us up, Dean, to maybe about 165, 166. Does that sound about right?
Based on the chart Dean had, be about 165 for the next 3-4 years, and then it would start falling off a little bit.
Right. You're comfortable with that, Dean? And you're gonna have to figure out something on the dirt without adding more to the debt, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the gray area, because I'm comfortable with the 40,000. If we need to spend more money to get those holes fully playable the way we want, where's that money coming from? Is that coming out of the operations? Or do we want to swallow and ask for more money right now? That's why I have you guys. And if it's not going to be part of the full bond, maybe we just ask for the 40,000 right now, and come summer, we'll know better where we stand if we have to ask for more money.
I guess I would say it's like, until I know, we've exhausted everything else before we spend $80,000 pushing dirt. And just make sure that's just the last alternative, because that seems quite expensive.
I agree that's not the route I want to go, that extra 80,000.
Yeah, didn't we talk last year about doing it internally? You know, with the crew out there, you know, not making it their number one priority, but trying to keep it moving along.
Yes, we did.
And I don't know what equipment that would require, you know. So, I mean, I don't know what $20,000 would get us versus 80,000 if we did it internally. And that's just throwing out a number. I have no basis for that.
Sure.
I just have a quick question. I just want to make sure I understand about the 40 first, that the motion is about. And that is, do we need the irrigation? We have that. It's not just about holes 4 and 5. It's about the whole
Golf course.
the whole place, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we need the 40 no matter what. That's just
Yes.
We need 40, yes.
So the other part, what we do with 4 and 5, that's a different issue, and that's something we don't need to decide today. We don't need to borrow money today, but we do need to think about the irrigation. Is that right?
That's correct. And the only reason I threw it in there kind of as do we ask for more money was not knowing the city's timeline on bonding. In the past, a lot of times we had to know what we wanted to bond by end of January, early February. But if that timeline is different now and Steve's going to work out something else where we just get 40 now and the bond is some other time, then we don't need to commit to anything else.
Well, I'd advocate that we don't spend any money past the fixing of the irrigation until we have options on, if we don't move dirt, here's what we could do. We could build a bridge, but it's going to do this to the length of the holes and things like that. And then weigh those options before we make a decision past the irrigation bonding.
So I move to approve the expenditure of the $40,000 to be bonded as a partial bond or as the bond for 2021.
Second,
Steve, is there a way you want that worded?
No, I think that's fine. We can work out the exact details for how to deal with that, and just due to the new timeline, I think we have more time if there is more consideration to the upcoming year's capital plan. We don't have to have that decided today. City's ultimately kind of looking to start the bond process in about April, and money would arrive sometime around August. So I think we have at least one more meeting to kind of shore up our annual plan here. But we can kind of fit this in and kind of work out interim deal to deal with this.
I don't think we'll actually have to pay for this for a few months till they can actually get out there and do the work.
Okay. So we've got time.
Yes.
Is there potential that some of the irrigation stuff will make whatever happens in terms of moving that dirt any cheaper, or that's just going to be completely unrelated to what might happen with that? I know you were saying it's not only holes 4 and 5, but is there the things that are happening with irrigation might help or change that situation sometime when it comes to reconsidering or considering what might be done there?
In talking with Brian, if we had full confidence that the irrigation's running automatically, it starts to free up more of his time. So then it's a function of his capabilities of can he do the work and get those holes playable. But if he's still there all night long monitoring the irrigation and checking for leaks and stuff like that, he won't have time to do any of that.
Okay, so I believe we have a motion and a second to approve the request for $40,000 in bond. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passed.
All right, thank you. Last few items for Steve we've talked about. They're in the interview process for an area director. There's been a lot of very good candidates, which is good to see. They hope to have someone in place by mid-March. The applications are still open, so they plan on closing the application process, I believe, about the second week of February, and then finishing up interviews and choosing someone. They do plan to do some programming in April. They've made partnerships with the Boys and Girls Club as well as Youth for Christ. So that's the primary means of the programming is going to be through those organizations to get started. They do have other groups in mind for partnerships, but programming is dependent on having enough lead coaches to teach the classes. So we had a meeting yesterday, kind of as an introductory, what's it take to be a lead coach, with Taylor, the area director for Grand Rapids, and had 20 of us on that call yesterday. And hopefully we can corral at least a handful of those people to commit to a lead coach. I'm pretty sure anyone who was on that call is going to volunteer in some form or fashion with coaching. But once we have a lead coach, we probably need 3 to 4 volunteers to help that coach for each class. So we still need as many people as we can get. Then we mentioned that the First Team Marathon is Friday, June 18th. And then our Support Red Arrow KHHA fundraiser will be Friday, July 23rd at Millen Park. And then I mentioned the simulators at Old Mill are installed, and we're kind of working out the bugs there and hopes of being able to fully open when restrictions are lifted on February 1st. I said if only Millen Park had ceilings tall enough and extra space for simulators. But Old Mill will be a good test ground. If we start making a ton of money at Old Mill off of them, we come back to the board and the city and say, hey, we need to expand here. Or even Eastern Hills. There's no reason we can't add something out at Eastern Hills to increase the revenue out there too.
How about your GPA building for simulators?
There's one in there, but it wouldn't necessarily function in a format that would be easy for us to do. Possibly once Josh gets running up there, we can see if we could even do that where someone could rent some time on there.
You got to set up food and beverage when you do that.
Ideally, that's why having them here attached to the clubhouse would be optimal. If we just abandoned the teaching part of GPA up there, and I don't think we could fit 2 simulators safely in there. Even though he's got 2 teaching areas, that's a little different than having 4 to 6 people with their sets of clubs, stepping in and out, making swings and hitting shots. Right now, it's kind of 1 or 2 people could be up there at a time.
Okay, anything else, Dean?
That's all for my report.
Okay, any old business or new business?
Nope.
We got one complaint letter, and I called and I recognized one of the names in the email. He's in my league. And I called him up, had a good talk with him. One thing, they complained, and at the end they did say, hey, the course conditions are good, and they appreciate that. So it wasn't just all complaining, but a couple items that they wanted us to be, thinking about is all the kids on the golf course. And I told him, well, that's not going to change. Might get worse. And he understood that. Not worse in a bad way, worse in a good way. And the other thing, though, I thought was a good, critique is like, maybe closer monitoring of the pace of play and people making the turn, sneaking on. And I don't know if there's any downtime. I know when these guys play, they probably play every night at 5 o'clock and try to get 18 in. And I don't know if there's any way, if there's a little bit of downtime while the leagues are out there and there's not a lot of people in the clubhouse. If there's 2 people in the clubhouse, if one of the guys can get on a cart and drive around and, Yeah, and just kind of at least get a snapshot of what's going on. I know it's hard for a college kid to go tell a mess of adults they need to pick up the pace, but that's something you got to do when you run a golf course. You got to watch that stuff. I think if we just at least, I think we owe them the respect to just to address their concerns and tell them, yeah, we appreciate it and we'll do what the best we can.
Maybe you could just put a memo out to all the leagues to police themselves. Maybe it's within the leagues that you're having the slow pace of play.
And maybe the same, did they have a specific complaint about the kids on the, maybe also do they need notice when because of the junior league being out there in the evening, or you know what I mean? Like, was there a specific complaint? Maybe also putting a notice out or something when those groups are out there?
That's a good idea, I think. Yeah. Isn't it junior league Thursday night at Millham?
In the summer, it's on Thursday. This fall, we were Tuesday and Thursday.
Maybe just bring that up and then just, and I've noticed that too, because I've got a group we play every Tuesday for years. And, God bless the older gentleman that's the ranger, he's still doesn't know who we are. And, and you do need to monitor the turn. It's uncomfortable for players to have to go up and police the turn themselves,
I mean, I totally agree that about the turn. There is a special place in hell for people who jump in front of other groups at the turn.
Yes.
So I totally agree about that. I thought one of the reasons the 9s were switched so that could be more effectively monitored. I mean, yeah, I agree people have to, monitor themselves. But yeah, I thought that was one of the reasons that was part of switching the 9s too.
Dean, is it okay if maybe like Steve and I, when we're there, we just say hi to the guys and just say, hey, we had somebody bring it up, and if you could please just keep an eye on it, I mean, we don't want to run the course, but maybe help you get that point across to whoever maybe is working it between 5 and 8.
Yeah, definitely. And, some of our issues we get are the members who just jump on from the range halfway down 10 fairway. Don't check in. And if we're not watching that consistently, or they jump over to number 12 green and 13, it's amazing how many times that happens. But off 10T, I don't know how many times I've heard the guys say, no, you got to go off number 1, then you turn your back, you're answering a phone call, and you watch off, and they just teed off number 10.
Maybe we should put a sign on 10 saying you cannot go off the back unless it's cleared through the clubhouse or cleared through the marshal. Or
And we were out there, we heard a helicopter.
I mean, maybe we should just put a big sign there.
Well, and I think you got to have it enforced, and it is hard for a 21-year-old to go out and tell a 50-year-old guy what to do, but, we got to get that message across, I think.
Well, I mean, but here's the thing. Right now, nobody really, if you don't know golf etiquette, you don't know you're not supposed to do that. But if you put a sign up and they know, then now the rule is there. It's clear. Now they know they're just flat out breaking the rules.
Seems like we used to have a sign, but I don't know where that is right now. So that's an easy start.
Used to have it on before the 9s were switched. You had it on what's now 1.
Yeah, so we have to find that sign or get a new one, because I'm sure Eastern has those signs because they close off for leagues. They still have those signs that go out and say this 9 closed for leagues or something.
Yeah, and they've got a starter out there.
No, it's a good start to put a sign.
Sorry about that. Something just happened with my, I don't know, I think I just dropped off, so I don't know if I missed.
You were elected to go out and police the turn on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
But you only get 1 bullet, like Barney Fife.
I'll hand out that say there's a special place in hell for you.
I think that was what got you cut off. Was that, that kind of language. Anything else? Can we adjourn, please?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
soon.
you.
Next month, we planning on a in-person meeting?
We'll see what the governor says.
Let's hope.
Next month would be what, February 18th, if we're on our normal schedule at noon.
I mean, if restaurants were open 25%, it would seem like we could meet
Do it, yeah.
and physically distance and mask, but
Is it going to be a city issue? I have no problem meeting in a big room with masks, but is the city going to let us do it?
we'll have to wait and see. I can't answer that right now.
Okay.
We haven't even had a conversation about it.
And Sean, we probably need to get together because usually in the summer we meet down at Parks and Rec. So do we want to start that next week, knowing that the ski shop is still occupying space at Millam? Or do we want to meet at Eastern Hills since no one's there?
Maybe Eastern, because we have programs going on in our big community room, which is where we'd want to meet. We have a virtual learning support program going on.
I'm good with switching it up and going to Eastern.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
Okay, so noon on February 18th, next meeting. Eastern Hill.
Sean, I'll send you a list of dates because don't you have to post those with the city?
Yep.
And Patrick, I'll send you I'll introduce you to, I forget her name at the city. So I'll send in the annual minutes and CC you and introduce you, and you can start sending her the monthly meetings.
He probably knows her. Probably
it Shelby?
Moss,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, Shelby.
Yeah.
Shelby.
He knows everybody.
Awesome. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And FYI, there are no public comments, since
Oh,
that is
thank
now
you.
a requirement for all the public meetings.
Good deal. All right.
Well, thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Get out of this.
Oh, good.